Hello, brother or sister CNCer. I'm Garrett with IDC Woodcraft, and I am glad you've come to this video if you are trying to learn how to stack text on text with your Vectric software. In this video, you're going to learn how easy it really is. Now, it does take a little bit of thought up front, but once you get this down, you're going to be going, oh, boom, 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 and you're going to be done. What I'm going to do is teach you the basic element of how to do that. This works in the Aspire Pro and desktop. Now I'm using desktop, so that's got the most limited features, but text on text is really easy in that too. So that's what I'm going to be showing you in. This is the baseline text on text. Now before we dive into doing this, I have two requests from you that I need your help on. The first is I want to ask you to send your thoughts out to one of the viewers on this channel, Patrick. He has come up against a little bit of a health issue, and his wife is suffering from some health stuff. So if your thoughts and prayers, just take a minute to put some good energy out to him and his wife. He would greatly appreciate it. The second request is a little bit unusual. I have been told many times in the comments in the videos or in emails that people feel like I'm like the best instructor out there for the CNC router stuff and the design stuff. And that has been my goal, to be the person who's able to get into your head to see what your questions really are. Basically what I do is I read comments and I listen. What do people want? Like stacking text on text. So I sit down, I make sure I figure it out at a very basic level and try to explain it that way. Anyway, because of that, my goal, if you don't know this already, I'm going to share it with you. I want to become the #1 go-to guy, or the #1 known guy in the CNC industry when it comes to the home machines. That means with the software and the machines. So if you are one that feels like I'm like the best teacher out there, maybe you can drop a note to your CNC router manufacturer and the software that you use and say, you got to check this guy Garrett out. And you'll be a part of my journey in helping me, just like I'm helping you. I guess it's a pay it forward or pay it back. I don't know. I'm not asking you out of obligation. I'm asking you because it's my dream to make a difference in the world of CNC, where companies can grab again that baseline that they started from, that there's always a person on the other side of the screen or of the sale. Most companies miss that mark. So that's my request. Take a minute, drop a note. So you got to check out this guy Garrett on the channel IDC Woodcraft. All right, let's get into this. That was a little long-winded, but your help will help me. Okay, so we are going to get into the Vectric software, and we're going to build something up so fast you're going to be going, whew, really? Okay, so let's go. All right, we are in Vectric in the desktop version. Again, this will work in any variant of Vectric software you have. This is the basic level. If you have Aspire, you can do a lot more stuff like integrate 3D carves with this. But of course, we're just teaching you how to do this because this is such a high demand. So first of all, let's just do our job setup. I am going to go with the max size that this can do. The desktop version goes up to 24 inches by 24 inches, and I'm going to go 3/4 of an inch deep. We're going to go off the top surface, and we are going to select our XY datum position as the center of the material. That's where this red dot is right here. And we're going to select OK. So the first thing that you want to take into mind is, what do you want to say? If you have watched this channel, you know that I like the word wealth. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put $100,000 as my top level text, and I'm going to put wealth as my second level text. So when we're doing this at this level, you want to try to construct this in your mind first. Always take your project apart as best as you can. And so what we have are two levels. We have the word wealth and the $100,000. So since $100,000 is going to be on top. That's going to be one layer. The word wealth will be another level, so that's going to be another layer. And then there is the boundary. In order to create a sign, we want a boundary because this is going to be recessed into the wood around the letters. So that's a third layer. And then there's going to be a fourth layer. So I'll have to explain that fourth layer when we get to it. But what I want you to do is go to your layers section right here, click it, open it up, and you'll have started with layer 1. And we're just going to click add a new layer, and we're going to do it 3 times. The first layer is going to be your top text. So you'll click the word so you can edit it, and it will say top. And I'm going to put in what it's going to be, 100, $1,000. The next layer, we're going to click that, and that's going to be wealth. And I have to say bottom layer. The third layer, you're going to call merged text. This is the key layer that's going to give you the second element of your sign. And then the last layer, we're going to name that border. And then we're going to set our colors so we know what we're working with. So the top layer is just going to say black. The bottom word, wealth, we're going to change that to blue. The merge text, we're going to change that to red. And the border, we'll change that to a green color. And we have got our layers set. Now we just want to get our text in here. So let's click the top layer, the 100,000, and just click off. Go into the Draw Text button under Create Vectors and click it. Type in your text. We'll type in 100,000. So I don't like that font. I am going to go with a straight Arial font. Just like that. And while we're in this, I want you to click off so it starts a new text box. But before you start to type text in, go up to your layers and select the bottom wealth, or your second level layer, text layer. Select that so it says bottom wealth up top. Move over to your text box and type in what you want it to say. And mine is going to say wealth in all capital letters, and I don't want that font for that. This is the cool part. We're going to change this to Times New Roman because I think that's very appropriate text or font for this type of project. And we are done with that. So we're going to close that, and we're going to get everything centered up. So with wealth selected, you will go to Transform Objects and the Align Selected Objects. Up top, align to material. We want to just align it to the center, so select the center button and it's going to move it to the center. Go over and click on the other word and do the same thing, and it'll move that to the center. And we can close that. So now, obviously, we have two texts. They're the same height. They're overlapping each other. This is not what we want. But we will come back to this. The next thing we're going to do is just create our border. So we're going to go back up to layers, highlight border so it gets bold here and it shows up here, and we're going to go into the rectangle mode. So over in rectangle, or whatever shape you want to use, circle, however, but you want this to build off center or off the center based on your sign. You'll figure this part out as you go along when you know what project you want. So I'm going to select the center radio button. Now, if you don't know what a radio button is, it's a button that you can only have that single button selected. If you see here in this square, there are 5 radio buttons, one in the middle and one on each corner. So I can only select one at a time. What this center radio button does is when you finish setting up your rectangle, the rectangle will be built off the center of the project, or the center point from which you choose. We are choosing to build this rectangle off of the center of the project, or at the 0, 0 point, which is right here. So we are going to make sure our X and our Y say 0. That is the start point from which the rectangle is being built, and it'll build outwards from the center. I'm going to go with the square corners, and then we're going to go with the size of the rectangle. So the width, since we have 24 inches by 24 inches, we're going to say this is 23 inches wide, and height-wise, let's just, for now, we're going to say 23 inches tall. And I'm going to click Create. And we just created our border right here. I'm going to close that. And we are going to start on our sign. So $100,000 is going to be on the top. Wealth will be the background word. So we want the wealth to be bigger and taller. We want it to stand out. So what I'm going to do is select wealth. Even though we are on a different layer, we can still manipulate the wealth on its own layer. Hit it again, and we're going to upsize this a little bit. When you select it and these buttons pop up, you can click the upper button right here or the lower button here and pull it, and it'll stretch up and down. You can click the ones on the side and it'll stretch left to right. So what we're going to do is we're going to click the bottom one. We're going to hold the shift button down. And what the shift does, it means it'll stretch from the center of the text. So holding shift, I select that button with my left mouse key and I stretch it. Now it looks a little funny, so I'm going to come out to the outside, select that again, and stretch it some more. Now I don't want to come too close to my boundaries. So something just doesn't look right here at the moment, but sometimes this is just the way it's going to show up. So maybe wealth should be the top, but we're going to go with this for now because I'm just teaching you how to do this. So we're going to go with wealth as it is, and I want to take a look at the 100 for a minute because I might want to italicize that, possibly. We're going to click the 100. We're going to go back into text, and you're going to see that you have 100 selected because it is up here. And I'm going to italicize that by clicking the button here. And, oh, there's something about that that gives a sense of speed. We'll go with that. Yeah, we'll just go with that. So I'm going to close that. You're learning some other techniques here at the same time. So we are like halfway through this. Now with the boundary, I'm going to say this is the outside of the sign. So we are going to select it while we are in the boundary layer. We're going to select it and we're going to go to offset down here under offset and layout. And we are going to create a new boundary. What I need to do is create a high rim around it so that we have to create an outer boundary for the tool, the router bits, to be able to do this type of work. So I'm going to select that. I'm going to make that outer boundary just a 1/4 inch. It'll be a thin outer boundary, so I select create, and now you see I have a second boundary here. And now that we have our words all laid out, I'm going to shrink the boundary down to the appropriate size here. So I select both boundaries, click it again so I have those buttons. I'm going to grab the upper button and hold my shift button down. And I missed it. So I'm going to do that again. Oh, I have to close this. So we close that. And then I hold the shift button down, grab that button, and the boundaries come inward. Now, I lost the other boundary, and that's because I hit Control C by accident, so it's easy enough to fix. Select the boundary, go back into outline, and just create. And there it is. Close it. So what's interesting here is we have all the foundations built. We simply have to do basically one more step, and then we can go into the toolpaths. But I'm going to be going a little bit slow to make sure that I tell you the step at a time. But it's only been 5 minutes I've been instructing you on this, and the foundation is built. All right, so let's just get back into it and finish up this last little piece, and then we'll start doing toolpaths. Let's go. And this is the critical, magical step. What I want you to do is select both of your fonts, right-click it, and copy to a layer, and that's going to be copied to the merged text layer. Click it, and now you see there's red. So I want to show you how we're built up right now. All of our layers are turned on, because you can tell with these light bulbs turned on. So we're going to turn them all off, and there's nothing there. So when I select the boundary layer, it's nothing but the boundary. When I select the top 100,000 layer, it's just the 100,000. The bottom layer wealth, just the wealth word. And the merged text layer is wealth with the $100,000. So what we want to do now is click on the merged text layer so it goes bold, and leave it turned on. So you see the text is bold here relative to the other text there, and it shows up here on layers. We are ready to do the magic. Select both of those texts. Come over to the Edit Objects area, and you're going to come to the second button down where it says Weld Selected Vectors, and click it. You're going to get a pop-up. What it is asking is, you are asking me to merge all these. Do you want to keep the original vectors while I make this third vector? So we don't want $100,000 in wealth on this layer together. We want to create this one vector where they're merged. So we are not going to click keep. If we click keep, it's going to create these vectors and keep the text on this layer as well. We are just going to replace it. So you click replace and look at our font. So it eliminated all the inside lines. We have wealth and $100,000 over top of each other. At this point, it is vitally important to not move anything on any of your layers. What will happen if you move anything from this point forward? Your text, when you carve it, is going to be messed up, and you're going to be lost as to where the problem is happening and what layers that movement has happened on. So don't move anything. Let's get back to this. Now we are going to go into toolpaths. Now I want to give you a little tip. A lot of people, I've seen this already, when they're in the drawing feature, they will come over and click the little pop-out bar right here where the toolpaths pop out. It's a handy feature, however, you have two dialogues going on at the same time. To the left is the design work, to the right is the toolpath work. I suggest to you to not do that. Instead, work in design or work in toolpaths, and not work in both. So what you do is come up to switch to toolpath commands by clicking this little blue arrow that points to the right side of your screen. Select it, it'll turn off the drawing and turn on the toolpath. Beautiful, we are getting so close. At this point, I want you to turn on the boundary layer. So select that little light bulb. I want you to turn off the merged text layer and turn on the top layer. What we're going to do is carve out the top layer text first. And we're going to do that with a pocketing command. Pocketing will remove all the material around the $100,000 within the boundary of the chosen boundary, and it'll clear out everything inside the zeros, inside the dollar sign, and we will get $100,000 showing up. So first, you're going to select under Toolpaths, the second button in, Pocket Toolpath. So in the Pocket Toolpath, we want to think, how deep do we want this to go? And we are going to go a 0.15 inches deep with the $100,000. So we have to come up, and since this is the top level, our start depth is going to be 0. The cut depth is going to be a 0.15. Then we need to select our router bits. So when you're dealing with details like this, there's a couple of things to keep in mind. A 1/4 inch router bit can only get into so much stuff, and it can't cut corners. So that means that areas like in the dollar sign here, up here in these corners, right here on the number 1, that there are going to be big rounded areas. So we are going to have to get a finer bit in here to help with that, to clean that up, sharpen it up, if you will. And the way we're going to do that is come into this box area, and we are going to click this select. Right now we have 1 bit in here, the 1/4 inch flat bottom end mill. We're going to select, and we're going to add a bit. We're going to add the 1/8 flat bottom end mill. So now you see there's 2 bits up here. So what this will do is when it generates a toolpath, it'll generate everything it can do with the 1/4 inch, and then generate another toolpath to finish up with the 1/8 inch. And you'll see how that works in a moment. Now we want to get down to the passes area. So it's going to do all this in 2 passes. That's okay. That's just based on the default settings of the bits. You see here it says offset, and the offset is grayed out. We can't select between raster and offset. If we come up here and select the 1/4 inch bit, now we can change that. And so what you want to do, raster mode, or when you're doing this, is take in mind the grain of the wood. So I'm going to explain a little bit about offset and rastering here, and why this is an important setting when you're doing carves like this, where you're cutting out a lot of material. When I select offset, if you look at the icon here, you see that it starts in the middle and it spirals its way out. And that's exactly how it's going to cut out here when it's creating the $100,000. The bit will start right here, and it'll come over, come down, go back, go up, come over, come down, and it'll be moving out each time. And so what it's doing, it's creating a box shape that's getting bigger and bigger. But here's where the problem comes in. Let's say the grain of your wood is going left to right. When your bit comes down and then it moves over and goes back up, it's actually going against the direction of the grain. And that's going to leave something called witness marks. And that's stuff that you have to sand out. In order to minimize that type of witness mark, you want to go to the raster. When I click raster, you see that this is all side to side with minimal up and down motions. So what the bit will do, it'll come in perhaps at the corner up here, and it'll go all the way across to the edge, come down a little bit, and then move all the way back across, come down a little bit, all the way back across. So now you have no up and down motions that's going across the grain in the middle of the job. So you want to use raster. Now I'm going to show you something. If I select the 1/8, I don't have the option to choose anymore. And that's because there's little areas where it can't raster. It has to actually do offset moves, but it'll be so small of an area that it's not nearly as noticeable. So I hope that made some sense to you. Let's just rehash how we've got that set up because I threw explanations in here. This is our top level text, the $100,000. Our start depth is 0, the top of the material. We are cutting it at 0.15 of an inch. Our first bit is the 1/4 inch end mill, and the second bit is the 1/8 inch end mill. For the 1/4 inch, we have set ourselves up on raster. We're going to name this top text, and we're going to calculate. We didn't select anything, so we have to select our boundary. So I'm going to select the inner boundary, and then I'm going to hold Shift down and select the numbers and then calculate. And so now we see toolpaths. Now I want you to take a look at what's going on here. We've got a lot of side-to-side motion, which is exactly what we want. And then we have some rounding motion. Let's come in close. Then we have a couple passes that are following up and around. This is the 1/8 inch end mill doing this type of work. And this back and forth is all the 1/4 inch end mill. So this is looking pretty good. So the 1/8 inch end mill is going to get into these little corners like that to clean it out and get it sharpened up. So you see there's lots of little spots that it's getting. Let's generate this toolpath, but before we do, what we're going to do is we're going to give it color so we can distinguish this thing. So select the first toolpath so it highlights blue. Up in material area, machined area color, click the toolpath color, and then click the drop down box and pick the color that you want. You'll have to come down to the second one since it's part of the same level cut. Click that and repeat that step. So that will be black too. And then we are going to preview all toolpaths. And there's our $100,000. And let's just take a look at the side so you can see it's the first level. Okay, so we got the first level done. Now you're probably screaming at me because I said, this is going to be really fast. Now I've been educating you on little tips and tricks as we've moved along. I'm going to redo this at the end of the video so you see how fast it goes. But right now we're going to get into my favorite word, wealth, the second level letter or word, and do that. So let's get into it. This is where the fun begins. Wealth. My favorite word of all time. So we're going to close this. We're going to go to split screen. And I like to split side to side. We're going to come up to our layers. Now I want you to see something real quick. You see how the merge text layer is activated? I know it's activated because it's red up here, but it's also turned off. And yet I was still able to work with the $100,000. That's because I'm not in the drawing area, I'm in the toolpath area. If I was in the drawing area on the other side, this would be significant. What we're going to do is now turn on the merged toolpath, the merged text, and we're going to turn off the $100,000. And we're going to come back into the toolpaths and we're going to do another pocket. Select that. Now I just made a little bit of a mistake, but I'm not going to catch it yet. I wonder if you caught it. We'll find out in just a minute. Now we know that we've already done the first layer, and that layer is down to 0.15. So we have to tell the machine or the software that we're going to start at that 0.15 level. So where it says start depth, we enter 0.15. And then our cut depth, we want this to be another 0.15 deep, so we just add 0.15. We don't add it, we just enter 0.15. What Vectric does is it adds these together for the total depth. Now you see my bits are all populated in here already, and so we are going to stay with that. And every setting that we had is there because it remembers our last setting. Now we get to carve layer 2. We have the boundary selected. Now we're going to hold our shift button down and select the rest of the text. And we are ready to rock and roll. All we have to do is calculate, but we need to name it first. So this is level 2. And calculate. And it says ignoring duplicate vectors. So I'm going to guess that that duplicate vector is the border right here, because I think I hit it twice. Okay, this is where the mistake showed up. The border is one. The other is the $100,000 that I carved first. When I turned off the layer and then I selected the other components without deselecting the first $100,000. So it's looking at that and it's seeing it over or superimposed over the wealth $100,000 thing. That's why I'm getting this alert. The Vectric software is so smart that it looks for that kind of stuff. So it says there's 2 duplicate vectors, so I'm not sure what they are. We'll have to go in and find them, but let's see what happens. So it calculates, and we get all these arrows in there. That's indicating the toolpath. And then, what we're going to do before we run the toolpath here, we're going to expand the screen so we can see this amazing thing, and we're going to give it some color first. Excuse me, I've had a cold that's moved a bit down into my chest. So we're going to select the level 2 clear layer, click it, and do the same thing with your color. I'm going to go with gold because that's an appropriate color for what we're doing. Then we'll go to level 2 final, and we're going to pick the gold again. And then we're going to preview all toolpaths. And I had a little bit of an error, and I know exactly why. So now we got to do a little troubleshooting because I've got the other font in there. First, I think I still had it selected. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to go take a look at the font, and I'm going to see. Instead of doing that, I'm going to click off of that. I'm going to go back into the toolpath. And I'm going to see what it just did. So I'm going to click that. I'm going to click that. I think we're okay. I think the $100,000 was already selected and I didn't deselect it. So we're going to select that boundary. Then we'll hold shift down and I'm going to select the other text again while I'm in the toolpath, and I don't believe I'm going to get that alarm this time. So we're going to calculate, and we got it right. So now what we want to do is reset the preview and run all of our toolpaths. And look at this. We now have a 2-layer sign. When I turn it up, you can see, such as in the L, let's zoom up, that is layer 2. And we have cut out everything. So we have our sign. Very amazing. I am going to run through this again, step by step, much quicker this time, in the order in which we did it. So we're going to go back over to the drawing section. First, I'm going to delete our toolpaths, and I'm going to delete them all. Bam! I just undid everything. We're going to go back to our drawing area. I'm going to select 2D view, and we are going to go to each layer. I'm to turn them all on, and we are going to delete everything but the boundary. Okay, so here we go. What text do I want in here? I am going to put I love CNC. So CNC will be our big background text. So I select text, type in CNC. And I'm going to change the font to the font that I use, which is, I can't remember the name of it. It is, there it is, Findel Display. That's my font. Then I'm going to click off. Then I'm going to type in I love. And I'm going to use a different font. We'll just use, let's just use New Times Roman. And we are going to close out of that. We're going to center these. So I'm going to select Align Selected Objects, center that one. We'll take CNC and center that one. Close that. We've created 4 layers. The top layer, text, the bottom text, the merged text, and the boundary. Each one has its own color. The CNC, which is currently selected because it's pink, will go to the bottom wealth layer for bottom text. We'll change that to bottom text. Right now it is on the first layer. It's on bottom wealth. Let's see what layer that's on. That should probably be on the top layer, I think. Yeah, it's all on the top layer. So we're going to move that to bottom text layer. Right click while it's selected, move to layer bottom wealth. So CNC is going to be our background text. I'm going to hold shift down while it's selected, and I'm going to bring it up in size. Then the I love, I'm going to select that, and we're going to bring that up a little bit while I'm holding shift down. And I like that. Yep, that works. Okay, now we can take it and copy it over to the other layer. So we're going to right click it, select it, copy it to merge text. We will go double check what we've got. We're going to turn off bottom wealth, or the bottom text, and have only the border doesn't matter. We're going to have the top text turned on, so I love is on top. We're going to click that off, and we're going to go to bottom wealth and only CNC, and then the merged text should be on the third layer, would be I love and CNC, which we got. We want to get to the merged layer, so select that so it's black and it shows up here. We have them selected. We're going to go to Edit Objects, the second icon down to the left, Weld Selected Vectors, select that, click Replace, and there's I love. We are done with this part. Now we're going to go over to Toolpaths, and we are going to first turn that layer off, merge text. We want the top I love to be on. Select Pocket. Set your depth. So start depth is 0, our cut depth is 0.15. I recommend that you use the 1/4 inch and the 1/8 inch end mill. And by the way, if you didn't know, I do sell the complete set of router bits for half the price what the companies sell them for, and you will get a whole bunch of vector files with it too. So there's a link down in the description for that if you want to take a look and see everything that you get. I think I give you 19 different things. I never like counted that before. Okay, so there we are, and we are going to simply come down. You're going to set it up so your top bit, the 1/4 inch bit, is on raster mode. That raster is going to follow with the grain. If your grain is going up and down, you have to set the angle right here, the degrees. So let's just say the degrees was up and down, it was 90 degrees. All you do is type in 90 there, and that will change. That will change the the direction of the raster. So I'm going to leave it at 0. And we're going to name it top layer, top text, calculate. Nothing is selected, which is a bad habit of mine. So we want the boundary right here. We have to have an inner boundary, an outer boundary, and we're going to hold Shift and select the words love and calculate. Well, we're almost there. I just wanted to stop for a second and say, if you now get this stack text thing and see how easy it really is, then give me a thumbs up, and I'd love a comment down below, the aha moment. Anyway, what else? Yeah, if you're brand new to this stuff, CNC or the software to design things on a CNC router, or if you want to make money with a CNC machine, I teach all of that. You want to subscribe, hit that subscribe button now. Okay, let's get back in this job and finish it up. We're going to give it color, so we'll select the top one. We'll make sure toolpath color is clicked. Select your color, black. No, orange, because orange is my color. Select it again for the second one and select orange. Did I get the same one? Yep, I didn't. Just go back and fix it if you didn't get the right color. I think I didn't match my colors. Okay, there we are. And now we're going to preview our toolpaths. I didn't reset. So preview reset, or reset preview, and click it again. All right, we got the first half done. So now we're going to split screen. We're going to turn the top layer off. We're going to turn the third merge text layer on and hold Shift button down. We have the boundary currently selected. Now, we just want to select off and reselect, because remember the I love was still selected. We just can't see it. So we select off, and then we select the boundary, and then select with the holding the Shift button down all the rest of your text. Close that, and we're going to go into Pocket, and that is still selected, so just double check that. We're going to use all the same settings, except our start depth is going to be a 0.15 down, because this is 0.15 down. And our cut depth is going to be the same depth, so by the time it is done with this set of letters, it'll be a 0.3 deep. We're going to use all the same settings, so we'll leave it alone. And we are going to name this second level text. And we are going to calculate. We'll give it a color, and we'll use that color as black, since that's my other color of my sign and my logo. This is your channel, but it's my logo. So, and we are going to preview all toolpaths. And there, my friend, we have done it again. I am so glad I can teach you this stuff. When you start to do this, you will understand. It'll be like, oh my gosh. So here's an issue. Got to show this to you. Look at that right here. How do you resolve that? Well, this is why when you are in the drawing mode, after you have that third layer set down, let's just split the screen. You don't want to move anything, because you might have to undo it and move some of your text a little bit. Like obviously we need to move this love over a bit. So what we have to do is essentially delete the merged text. We're going to turn on the other two so we can get an eyeball on this area right there. Select love, and I'm going to move it over. And let's see if we possibly will run into that somewhere else. We'll be okay on the O. And we'll be okay there. Okay, so now we're going to come back into our toolpaths. We're going to recalculate. Everything has been recalculated. Nope, it's not going to work because I didn't. I made a mistake. I am so sorry. We're going to come in here. We are going to select both of these. Right click, copy to layer, merge text. We're going to go to the merge text layer, which is on, but we want the other layers off. And we're going to select that layer. I'm going to get out of this and go back to the drawing area. We're going to weld that text, replace it. It's done. We're going to come back over. We have to go back into that second toolpath and reselect these items. Watch. I'm going to click it. And you see how it's not selected now? It's because we deleted it. So you can see the boundary is still selected. So we're going to hold Shift button down, select that text, the merge text, and we're going to calculate, reset our image, and run all toolpaths. And we have now solved that problem. So I hope you understood that why you don't want to move things. That's actually kind of a cool sign, wouldn't you say? Let's just finish it up. We're going to profile the outside of the sign. So I'll close that. I'm going to split screen. And I'm going to do a profile. And I have to select the outer boundary. And our start depth is 0. Our finished depth is going to be all the way through the material. So we're going to say Z equals. And I'm going to do this with a 1/4 inch end mill. Should probably do it with 3/16. I've heard a lot of suggestions to do that. So that's what I'm going to do. And we're going to select it on the outside. So select that. And I'm not going to worry about tabs right now. And we will just name it as cutout. And calculate. We'll run the toolpath. And then we'll double click. And look at that. We have an amazing CNC sign. I want to see your sign. When you get a stack text sign done, send me a picture. In the meantime, happy CNCing.